Good morning. Are you ready to proceed, counsel?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, you may call your first witness.
Applicant calls Sean Castle.
All right, Mr. Castle, take your time, come forward and have a seat in the chair to my left whenever you're ready. All right, raise your right hand. You swear the testimony you're about to give will be true and correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Microphone is on, so you should be all set. You can adjust the chair if you need to. Whenever you're ready.
Good morning, Mr. Castle.
Good morning.
Can you please state your name and spell your last for the record?
Sean Castle, K-A-S-A-L.
And Mr. Castle, what is it that you do?
I am a digital forensics expert and a network security consultant.
What?
Network security consultant.
What does that entail?
For the past 15 years, I have served as a consultant in the network security industry, specifically in the IT markets, helping dealerships build networks, telephone systems, and helping their network security posture, as well as serving as a digital forensics expert. I have spent a lot of time learning, teaching, and instructing civilians and law enforcement in the sciences behind digital forensics and network attribution.
Does this include analysis interpretation of the digital evidence?
It does. It's the process of collecting, analyzing, and building threat reports as it pertains to evidence contained within digital devices.
So you have professional experience in digital evidence interpretation and investigation?
I do.
Can you tell me a little bit about the training you have in the area of digital forensics?
Yes. So in the industry of digital forensics, there are several software titles that we utilize on a daily basis. They are annual subscriptions for the licensing of those titles. And as a part of the renewal process, I purchased the training packages that accompany those titles from Cellbrite, Magnet Axiom, Oxygen Forensics, and Xero FTK. I also teach. I did my adjunct work at the University of Nebraska-Kearney under PhD Matt Miller, and I also am a returning guest lecturer and instructor at the Institute of World Politics in Washington, D.C., where I teach specifically in the area of network attribution and threat intelligence as it pertains to signals intelligence, social media intelligence, and open source intelligence.
So you instruct with the military?
I teach graduate students who are going to be employed by intelligence services such as CIA, NSA, and I also instruct law enforcement at the University of Nebraska-Kearney. I teach them means of correlation of data points and give them an understanding of how to build context within correlation of data.
Mr.
It's taking independent data points as it pertains to the evidence contained within devices, building timelines, and understanding how all of those data points come together to understand the full narrative of events or patterns.
Mr. Castle, have you provided any previous expert testimony?
I have. I have testified in state courts, federal courts, and military courts.
Have you ever been appointed as a special master?
I have a couple instances of which I was appointed to a district court judge. The situation surrounding that was the Attorney General's office of the state of Nebraska had received privileged information and pertains to communications between their client and the attorney. So my role was to be a custodian of the data and assist the judge in parsing out that privileged information so that the AG's office could have a comprehensive report of all of the other data contained within the device.
Have you ever been disqualified as a digital forensics expert in any court proceeding?
No.
Mr. Castle, can you tell us what digital forensic evidence, what that term means?
The science of digital forensics is the ability to collect, maintain the integrity of, and analyze artifacts in digital devices such as mobile phones, tablets, computers, servers, and cloud data sources.
Are there standard operating procedures for digital forensics?
Yes, there are industry standards as defined by organizations like the National Institute of Standards and Technologies, as well as the companies who build the digital forensics tools that we use have best practices and standards for procedural aspects of collecting, maintaining the integrity of, and doing the analysis of the data that are contained.
Would this include the investigation and interpretation of the data?
Yes,
Do you follow these standards?
yes.
Mr. Castle, were you retained by counsel for Todd Mullis?
I was.
And did you examine any electronic devices in this case?
I did.
How did you physically examine the data?
I was invited down to the Sheriff's Department in Delaware County to do my own independent collection of multiple devices on site there in September of 2022. And I also visited the Mullis family farm to collect some devices there as well. Specifically on the mobile devices, my assistants and I collected through multiple extraction processes those mobile devices to also include a network security recording device for cameras, which was located on the Mullis family farm, and also a satellite-based Dish Network TVR set-top box, and multiple laptops. I think there were 2.
What do you do first when you examine an electronic device?
Depends on the device. When it pertains to mobile devices, the first thing to do is to isolate that device from any connected network, placing it in airplane mode and making sure that Bluetooth and other similar network connectivity options are turned off, or by placing it in a Faraday cage or bag to make sure that it is unable to talk to any networks for fear of data corruption. At which point we connect those devices to the laptop or machine that we were using to extract that data and process it for further analysis. With laptops, it requires pulling the hard drives out of the laptops, connecting them to a forensic write blocker, which inhibits the ability to modify, tamper, or corrupt the data contained on that laptop, and do an image of the hard drive for further processing later. That same process is also followed with the hard drive contained within the camera security network video recorder, and as well as the set-top box from Dish Network.
Can you explain what exactly you mean by extraction?
It is the process of collecting the data contained on the hard drive or the memory within a mobile device or laptop. There are multiple extraction methods available to a digital forensics investigator. With mobile devices specifically, there is logical, advanced logical, and physical methodologies available, both through Cellbrite and oxygen forensics. That process is similar in nature for both Android and Apple platform devices, and entails different methods of collecting that data within the device.
What software did you use for the phone and iPad extractions in this case?
Cellbrite UFED, which is a Cellbrite Universal Forensic Extraction Device. I actually licensed the title Cellbrite UFED for PC, which allows me to install that on one of my laptops, making it a little bit more mobile or portable as a solution.
Can you explain the 3 types of extractions through Cellbrite?
Yes. The logical extraction process is a simple process of extracting the data as it exists on the file system of the hard drive contained within the mobile device. That is the same for both Android and iOS platforms. The advanced logical extraction process entails both a file system extraction and on the Android platform, an ADB or Android backup process. On the Apple Ecosphere platform, it would also entail an iTunes backup method. And the physical process of collecting the data is very similar to the process of a hard drive contained within a computer, and that it is a bit-by-bit copy of the data contained on the drive within the device. The physical methodology is the most comprehensive and the best method to use. However, depending upon the device, the software version running on the phone, and the software version of the software that I use to collect, it may not be available as a process.
After the extraction, did you do any analysis on the devices?
I did. I ingested the extracted information into Cellbrite Physical Analyzer, which is the software that Cellbrite produces for that process. And I also ran these devices through Magnet Axiom, which is another forensics title available to me, and a tool that is commonly utilized both by private sector and law enforcement. Using both tools gives a better and more comprehensive overview of the data, as both titles have specialties, meaning that those software companies have spent their resources and money on specific areas of analysis and have special or unique abilities within that software title. As an example, Cellbrite spends a lot of their research and development time finding ways to circumvent encryption processes utilized by cell phone companies, where Magnet Axiom has spent a lot of time developing ways and means to process the SQL-like databases and JSON files that make up the data constructed within a mobile device. So using both tools gives a very comprehensive overview of the data contained.
You mentioned some other electronic devices. Did you do extractions for those as well?
I did.
What software did you use?
For creating the disk image of the network video recorder for the camera security system and the Dish Network set-top box, I used FTK Imager to produce an EO1 format of the disk image. And for the analysis of the network video recorder for the camera security system, I used the same software title that the law enforcement used, which was DME DVR Forensics. It was the same title that the law enforcement in this matter used for their analysis.
Did you generate a report on your analysis?
I generated a couple of different reports. I will be specific of those. A general report of my findings overall was authored. And then I also created individual extraction reports of the data contained within the different devices that I had an opportunity to do analysis on.
I would like to show the witness what has been marked as Exhibit 272. Is it on your screen?
I do.
Do you recognize this?
This is a current copy of my Circulum Vitae, noting my professional experience, training, presentations I've done, and some of my work history, ma'am.
And you mentioned this is up to date, so there's no additions?
No, I believe this is the most current version.
And can you scroll down to page 4? And what is this, Mr. Castle?
This is the first page of the report that I authored of my findings overall for this matter.
Does the CV and report, over general report, fairly and accurate represent your work and experience in this matter?
It does.
Your Honor, the applicant offers Exhibit 272.
Any objection?
Yes, Your Honor. Beyond what has been referenced, this exhibit also contains an affidavit. The report and affidavit are hearsay, and in addition to that, the report contains what this witness, essentially credibility findings of this witness speaking about other witnesses that have testified in this case. His credibility determinations and his opinions about the truthfulness of other witnesses is inadmissible, and the report should be excluded for that reason and because it is hearsay.
Would you like to respond?
Your Honor, this goes to what happened in the underlying trial as well as the evidence that was presented, and it is a full explanation of Mr. Castle's experience and his analysis of the data. that he extracted and analyzed. It's about the weight and not the admissibility of the evidence.
272 will be admitted. However, the court will not consider the affidavit portion of that exhibit or give any weight to any credibility determinations made of other individuals if they're referenced throughout the report. Certainly to the extent that counsel is utilizing the report in any questioning of the witness, I would ask that you avoid any of those portions, please. You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Did you review any depositions or trial testimony in this case?
I did.
And who would that have been of?
The testimony and trial transcripts of former Deputy Travis Hemisep and the DCI agent, Mr. Trebet.
Your Honor, I see the witness is reading from the screen. Is he reading from the report?
He is, and I can put it up on the TV if that's helpful. Maybe.
Did you also review the testimony and deposition of Ward Crowley?
I did.
Nicole, you can take down the exhibit. Did you receive and review the extraction and digital discovery evidence from Mr. Mullis's criminal trial?
I did.
Mr. Castle, did you review the iPad that belonged to the Mullis family?
I did.
What browser was used on this iPad?
Primarily the Safari web browser.
On this particular device, did the Safari web browser default to Google searches?
The Safari web browser had the Google search engine as its default search engine.
Did you review Mr. Hemseth's testimony regarding the iPad?
I did.
And do you recall that his testimony about the search history on the iPad was falling off?
I do recall that portion of his testimony.
Was this correct?
No.
And why is that?
I'm going to object. This is going into credibility determinations. He can testify about his own findings and whether in the court can determine if they are consistent with the underlying trial testimony.
May I be heard, Your Honor?
Go ahead.
This is not a credibility issue. This is about the actual issues and what was actually on the iPad and the evidence that should have been presented at Mr. Mullis's trial.
Yeah, I agree. Objections overruled. Do you remember the question, sir?
Can you restate, please?
Yes, just you were about to explain the search history of the iPad falling off.
Yes. Upon visual inspection of the device, there would be a list of most recent searches that a user had done on the device. But upon the extraction and analysis of the data contained within the iPad, it reveals a longer history or a more comprehensive understanding of all the searches that were conducted on the device.
Can you explain what it would mean for searches to be falling off?
Visual inspection of the device, when tapping in the Google search area, it would show the most recent searches conducted by a user of the device. And that would be a short list, just simply because the screen is only so long and it would only represent those most recent searches that were conducted. But that does not inhibit or restrict the memory of the device or the number of searches that were actually conducted on the device itself. That would be revealed upon the extraction and analysis of the data itself.
So the evidence would still, or the search history would still be available?
In two different locations, one on the device and also as a part of the subpoena offered to Google for the comprehensive search history.
Were you able to determine when the iPad was first activated?
I believe I recall that in August of 2017, the first user activity demonstrated on the device was a connectivity to a wireless network, representing the first viable activity recognized on the device in its activation time period.
Is there a way to determine how the iPad accesses the internet?
Yes, the Apple ecosphere keeps a fairly comprehensive system log that demonstrates the network traffic that leaves or arrives on the device via its network interfaces. Those network interfaces being the WWAN interface, which would be the cellular radio on the device, or the Wi-Fi radio interface for standard Wi-Fi network connectivity.
Can you have a cellular data plan on an iPad?
There are a couple different models of iPad. One of those models does contain a radio that is capable of 3G, 4G, and now more modern 5G cellular data transmissions.
Are you aware if the Mullis family iPad had a cellular data plan?
It had a radio that was capable of cellular network traffic. The time frame in which it had a data plan attached to it was determined later.
Okay. I would like to show the witness what has been marked as Exhibit 256. Mr. Castle, based on your experience in this field, is this a document that you would normally see?
Yes.
And do you often see activation plans in your work?
As a part of network threat attribution, one has to correlate multiple data points, one of those being subscriber data, to gain an understanding of the traffic that may have arrived on the device, the IP addresses associated with that traffic, and the data plans connected to them. Yes.
Your Honor, the exhibit is being displayed. This was an issue yesterday as well, where exhibits are being displayed where they haven't been admitted. Thank you.
Did you use this document to reach your opinion on whether the cellular data was activated?
It was one of the data points that I used, yes.
Counsel, and I guess I would just say, I mean, with regard to the displaying of the exhibits, again, this isn't a jury trial, and so it doesn't really matter to that end. Normally, we wouldn't want them displayed because a jury would be seeing them, but to the extent the court is the fact finder, that isn't a concern in terms of what's being seen. Obviously, we have spectators and the media viewing, so there is that, but it isn't those spectators or the media that will be the fact finder in this case. So just want to note that for the record.
And thank you, Your Honor. The one reason I point that out specifically is some of the exhibits that have been filed have unredacted personal information, social security numbers, minors' names. So if it's up before I have a chance to open the exhibit, it's difficult for me to determine.
Well, yeah, and the issue of redacting information is certainly different. There shouldn't have been anything filed with unredacted information. I think there's only been one exhibit that we've talked about that needed to be filed at a higher security level. So that is something that should be brought to my attention. So thank you for that. All right, go ahead, Ms. Steenson. Sorry for the interruption.
That's okay. Thank you, Your Honor. Does this appear to be an activation plan from US Cellular?
Yes.
Is the phone number the one on the phone number listed, the one associated with the Mullis family iPad?
Yes, it correlates to the telephone number represented in the Cellbrite extraction report.
And what day was this plan activated?
I believe it was October 12th of 2018.
Your Honor, the applicant offers Exhibit 256.
Any objection?
Based on prior agreements with counsel that we will not require US Cellular to come in and lay foundation, I have no objection.
256 is admitted.
Mr. Castle, do you know when when planting is generally is?
Objection. This is the foundation.
I sustained.
Were there email accounts connected to the iPad?
Yes.
Is there evidence on the iPad that links to Todd Mullis 76 Google account?
Yes.
Is there evidence on the iPad that links to Mullis RN Gmail account?
I'm sorry.
I'll withdraw.
Okay.
That second part of the question?
Yes, is there evidence on the iPad that links to the Mullis RN Google account?
Yes, there are artifact evidence of both accounts on the device.
And is there evidence on the iPad that links the Amy Lynn 5810 Google account?
I did not find any artifacts or evidence of that account being linked.
Mr. Castle, you mentioned earlier that you reviewed the cell phones in this case. Did you analyze Todd Mullis's phone?
I did.
And what type of phone was this?
It was an LG older style flip phone.
During the course of your review of the digital forensic evidence, did you review Todd's US cellular records?
I did.
I would like to show the witness what has been previously marked as Exhibit 373. Can you tell me what this document is?
It appears to be a phone record of a device in a billing period noted. This appears to be the phone records for Todd Mullis's phone.
Are the last four digits of Todd's phone number 1114?
Yes, as represented in the document.
Are these the records that you received from the state?
Yes.
The applicant offers Exhibit 373.
Any objection?
Your Honor, the only objection I have, as was stated in our preliminary objections, is there is highlighting added by Mr. Mullis's counsel on the first page of the exhibit. But beyond that, agreement consistent with our prior agreement about the US Cellular, I have no other objection beyond that.
373 is admitted with the understanding that the highlighting, I guess, was not original to the document.
Yes, Your Honor, and I believe there has been another version filed without the highlighting in it.
Okay, thank you. During your, and you can take this down. During the course of review of the digital forensic evidence, did you review law enforcement's extraction of Todd's phone?
I did.
I would like to show what has been marked as Exhibit 353. What is this, Mr. Castle?
And this is a page that was a part of the extraction report of the phone, Todd's phone specifically.
And how is it that you recognize this?
First, it notates the extraction report and the model number of the device up at the top. And it was also labeled Todd's phone. And as far as the data contained within the report, it represents some sent and received communications.
The applicant offers Exhibit 353.
Any objections to 353?
Minimally, Your Honor, there's some handwriting on it. If additional foundation can be laid, just the handwriting where it says Todd's phone, etc.
Ms. Stinson? Yes, I believe that this, yes. Did this, did this come from defense counsel's file?
It did. That's not my handwriting specifically on the phone that as far as the notes on it. I recognize the report as a result of the model number of the device and the communications on it.
But this is what you received.
Yes. Minus the handwriting.
Does that address your objection, counsel?
I'm fine with it being admitted, Your Honor.
Right. Again, 353 will be admitted with the understanding that the handwriting, I guess, is not relevant necessarily to the exhibit. Mr. Castle, did you analyze Mrs. Mullis's phone?
I did.
And what type of phone was that?
It was a smartphone with a larger screen, a more modern device.
Are the last four digits of the phone number 5675?
I believe so, yes.
Did this phone have access to the internet?
It did, which was in contrary to Mr. Mullis's phone, which the flip phone had internet capabilities, but there was no artifacts or evidence of any internet usage. Where on Ms. Mullis's phone, it did have a web browser that represented artifacts and evidence of web history to include social media.
Would this also included Facebook?
Yes,
So you indicated that there had been internet searches on the phone?
on Ms. Mullis's phone, yes.
Was there any email accounts connected to Mrs.
There were
Mullis's
multiple
phone?
accounts.
Is there evidence on the phone that links to Mullis RN Google account?
Yes,
Mullis RN Google account?
yes, there was.
Is there evidence on the phone that links to Amy Lynn 5810 Google account?
Yes,
Is there evidence on the phone that links to Todd Mullis 76 Google account?
yes.
Was there a recovery number on the Todd Mullis 76 Google account?
There was.
Can we get foundation for what this recovery number?
The objection's overruled. The answer will remain in the record. Go ahead, Ms. Steenson.
Thank you. Can you tell me what a recovery number is for a Google account?
When setting up a Google account, Google wants a phone number that can be utilized to recover the account in the event of a forgotten password or a security breach, so that they can validate the identity of the user, so that they can have some means of validation that the end user is who they say they are, have the ability to then get back into the account in the event of its lock or password forgotten scenarios.
So you would be able to reset a password for a Google account through a recovery phone number?
Yes, or offer it as a means of two-factor authentication.
So you mentioned that there was a recovery number linked to the Todd Mullis 76 Google account. Whose number was that?
It was the number associated with Ms. Mullis's phone.
Briefly on the Mullis RN Google account, did you review the search history from this Google account?
I reviewed the search history both on the device and as a part of the subpoena reply from Google.
Did you notice that the Google account included searches about cabins?
I did.
Over the course of your analysis in the forensic digital evidence of this case, did you review Mrs. Mullis's US cellular phone records?
I did.
I would like to show the witness what has been previously marked as Exhibit 374. Mr. Castle, what is this?
This is a representative of some cellular communications and the telephone number associated with Ms. Mullis's phone.
And is this what you received from the state's discovery?
Yes.
I would like to admit Exhibit 374.
Any objection to 374?
No objection. Just, however, if we can clarify for the record that it's being received from the state through Mr. Mullis's counsel, but otherwise no objection.
374 is admitted with that clarification.
Mr. Castle, did you analyze Tristan Mullis's phone?
I did.
What type of phone was this?
It was also a smartphone with a larger screen or display and had internet capability and connectivity.
Were the last four digits of the phone number 1864?
I believe that to be correct, yes.
Were there internet searches on this phone?
There were multiple internet searches on the device.
And what types of searches were these?
There were searches for PC games, mobile device games, several multimedia searches, and searches for very specifically military sniper style games.
And what other types of searches were there?
There was some, under the multimedia category, there were some searches for some adult related content.
And what type of online games did you find?
World of Warships and other similar combat style online games.
And when you say adult content, what is it that you mean?
Specifically pornography.
And were there searches for snipers?
Yes, it was one of the games that was searched for.
Did you create extraction reports of Amy and Todd's text messages?
Yes, I created an extraction report both from Todd's phone and from Ms. Mullis's phone as pertaining to the communications between those two parties.
I would like to show the witness what has been marked as Exhibit 307. Mr. Castle, what is this?
This is an extraction report of specifically SMS communications between Todd and another party, I believe that Ms. Mullis's phone, or Ms. Mullis's messages.
And did you do this extraction report?
I believe so. The cover page is missing. That would give more detail, but from my recollection, yes, this is a report that I generated of the data extracted from the phones.
And besides the missing cover page, is this a fair and accurate representation of the data you extracted?
Yes.
I would like to admit Exhibit 307 into evidence.
Any objection?
Yes, Your Honor. I think more foundation needs to be laid about how this exhibit was created. It's been portrayed as communications and text messages between the two, but after, I believe, page 20 on my version of the exhibit that I was given, there's pictures, Facebook posts, all sorts of different things that I don't think were mentioned by the witness.
I think I heard the witness say they were SMS communications, so maybe we could have some further explanation, Ms. Steenson.
While you were analyzing Amy Mullis's phone, you had mentioned that she had Facebook on her phone. Did you analyze her Facebook account?
I did. And the reports that I generated of those devices may have contained more information than just the SMS or communications between the parties. It may have included other artifact evidence that was contained within the device for review by defense counsel.
Yes. Do you see these, yeah, can you tell, what page is this? Starting on page 19, can you tell us what these are?
These would appear to be social media posts or the pages represented on their social media containing images and communications or posts on those media accounts.
And is this from Amy Mullis's Facebook account?
If she was slow, so I can validate the. Yes, this would be from the Facebook account for Ms. Mullis.
Is Exhibit 307 a fair and accurate representation of the SMS extraction you did and also the Facebook post from Amy Mullis's Facebook page?
Yes, this would be an extraction report of her device containing those items.
Your Honor, I would like to renew my request to admit Exhibit 307.
Any objection at this time?
Yes, Your Honor. May I briefly, while you're the witness?
You may.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Castle.
Good morning, sir.
Up on your screen, do you have the Facebook messages there? Can you look at the bottom of one of those pages in the bottom right? Can you tell me what you see there?
Counsel, I think you probably have to identify a specific page and
Sure.
then we'll have to have,
I'm looking at page 19. In the bottom right corner, it shows a page number. Do you see that? Once she gets there.
Yes.
And what does it say?
It has a page number of a total number of pages noted there at the bottom.
And I believe it states page 877 of 1,453. Is that what you see?
That is correct.
And this total document appears to be 46 pages, including the SMS messages. Is that accurate?
Yes.
So there is not 1,453 pages from Facebook in this document?
In this document, it would appear to be an excerpt or a extraction of specific pages within that more comprehensive report, yes.
And then if you can scroll just to, can you see the top of that page, the very top line on that, on page 19?
Which line specifically are you wanting me to look at?
So right by the e-filing stamp, is the top of that consistent with something that would be printed off Facebook, or is that something that would be consistent with coming from a Cellebrite or similar type of extraction?
Can you scroll down just a little bit so I see the bottom of the page? This would appear to be part of a print of a Facebook page. This specific page, not part of the Cellebrite extraction report.
Thank you. Your Honor, I would object on foundation, completeness, and relevance. These two mesh of documents are unrelated, and I don't understand this exhibit.
yeah, I guess, counsel, do you want to respond to that? It's certainly the way that the exhibit is labeled, and I guess my understanding of what the witness did, it would appear that the first 18 pages make sense. I understand how those were obtained and where they came from. The remaining portion of the exhibit does seem to be cherry-picked pages from Facebook. Can you clarify that, please?
Just one moment, Your Honor.
Sure.
So, Mr. Castle, you mentioned that you did an analysis on Mrs. Mullis's phone that included that she had a Facebook account. Is that right?
Correct.
And is it possible to download information from Facebook?
It is.
And how would that work?
There are multiple ways to acquire that data, primarily for the purposes of integrity. Facebook offers a process of a Facebook download in which they pull all the data from their multiple servers that contain account information, posts, messages, those types of things, and combine it within a single zip file that has a report of all that data the user may have posted or communicated via their social media. Secondarily, there are ways to scrape or pull individual posts and pages from Facebook from a computer. This is a couple of different processes that could have been utilized to acquire the information.
Is a portion of your report these Facebook extracts? Starting at page 19.
Objection, Your Honor. The witness has already testified that this is not from his extraction. These are prints from Facebook. And I'm going to add an objection under 403 that the exhibit in its current form is misleading because the page numbers continually jump around.
This exhibit does contain a
Yeah.
portion of the Silbright report that I created.
Okay,
So
I apologize, sir. Yeah. I mean, I guess I heard the witness say that these appeared to be pages that were printed from Facebook. It certainly does appear to be incomplete if we look at the page numbers at the bottom. So we're really dancing around that issue. So the objection sustained for now.
Your Honor, I would like to offer pages 1 through 18 of what has been marked as Exhibit 307 into evidence, which represents the extraction of SMS phone records.
Any objection to that portion of 307?
Yes, Your Honor, only because this gets back to my original objection with the exhibit, that I believe additional foundation for how because I believe the witness said this is coming from two different phones, so I believe additional foundation of how the messages were combined would be beneficial.
Ms. Steenson, would you like to lay some additional foundation specifically with regard to the, I guess, combining of the information from the two phones for purposes of creating the summary on the first 18 pages of 307?
Yes, of course, Your Honor. Thank you. Mr. Castle, can you explain how you created this extraction report?
If I'm allowed to look at the previous 18 pages, I can validate. Okay. This Silbright extraction report here specifically is from Ms. Mullis's phone, and is not a compilation of multiple devices. The first 18 pages are just the extraction report of Ms. Mullis's phone, and the communications between her and Todd.
I would like to remit or renew my request to admit Exhibit 307, pages 1 through 18.
Mr. Bakke?
No objection on that portion. Thank you.
The first 18 pages of 307 are admitted.
Mr. Castle, did you create an extraction report of Mrs. Mullis and Jerry Frazier's emails?
I created a report of the communications between those two parties, yes.
I would like to show the witness what has been marked as Exhibit 308. What is this, Mr. Castle?
It is an extraction report representing emails between the two accounts noted in the second column, Amy Lynn 510@gmail.com and Jerry Frasher 70@gmail.com.
What time period do these cover?
It appears to be November of 2018. Is there multiple pages to this document, or just a single page?
Mr. Castle, can you tell us how you created this extraction?
So for this report, I chose the email communications category within the Silbright application. I extracted that data specifically into this baser document.
And is this the fair and accurate representation of the report that you created of the emails between Mrs. Mullis and Jerry Frazier?
As they existed on the device, specifically, yes.
I would like to request to admit Exhibit 308.
Yes, Your Honor. This was also raised in our preliminary objections. Many of these email communications, example beginning at page 3, states that the item was truncated due to length. I don't believe foundation has been laid as to that truncation of the emails. Additionally, it states that it contains body files. Those are hyperlinks that don't go to anything. So the messages appear to be incomplete.
Ms. Steedson, would you like to address those concerns, please?
Yes, thank you. Mr. Castle, can you go to page 3 of this report, please? Can you tell me what it means to have this what truncate means?
When generating the report, due to the volume of the data contained within that specific communications, it leaves the final portion of that communication off as a function of generating this report. The source data that the information was derived from is complete and in totality. This report just simply pulls the rest of the data out of it. This is more representation of that the communications between these two parties happened, and this is a overview or summary of the initial communication between the two parties.
Your Honor, I would like to renew my request to admit Exhibit 308.
Counsel?
Thank you, Your Honor. I do object. I'm going to object on 403 that in its current form, the emails, the truncated version of the emails are misleading, especially with the full content not being available for consideration. Thank you.
May I be heard, Your Honor?
You may.
The state has all of this data. This is just for, this goes to the weight, not the admissibility. We are asking for, this is just an example of it reflects what was sent between, but the state has all the underlying data. And if they want to cross Mr. Castle on this, they are willing to.
Counsel, do you agree that you have all of the underlying data that was used to create this report?
Yes, Your Honor, it's likely in the terabyte of information or approximately terabyte of information that I've received. I don't believe it's a discovery issue. It's that the fact finder here is only getting partial. So I think if there's any specific email that needs to be referenced, it would be more appropriate for that full email to be admitted, not truncated partial summaries.
Certainly. I do think it goes to the weight to be given this particular exhibit, if any. 308 will be admitted.
Mr. Castle, can you tell me what UTC is?
It's Coordinated Universal Time Code. It is a universal accepted standard for establishing a uniform way of maintaining a timestamp globally.
Is this standard in digital forensics?
It is standard in network communications as well as digital forensics, a way of establishing a baseline timekeeping methodology.
What time zone is Iowa?
Iowa is in the Central Standard Time Zone, or CDT, Central Daylight Savings Time Zone, depending upon the time of year that it is.
What is UTC time in Central Standard Time?
It is -6 hours from the UTC time code.
And does UTC time change with daylight savings?
UTC remains unchanged. However, the offset for Central Standard Time is adjusted by the hour.
When it is midnight in UTC, what time is it in Iowa?
Non-daylight savings time, it would be 6 p.m.
Is it typical for extractions to be in UTC time?
That's how the data contained within a mobile device is represented, is in UTC time code stamping. It is an option within the software titles to make that calculation or adjustment for Central Time or daylight savings time accordingly.
So there has to be a conversion from whatever uniform standard time is used?
Correct.
And the reviewer would have to convert to Central Standard Time or Iowa time or the relevant time zone?
The machine will automatically adjust those time code stamps accordingly, making it less prone to mistake or calculation by the end user or the analyst.
Did you review Mr. Hemeseth's testimony regarding UTC?
I did.
Was he correct that UTC is military time?
No.
Was he correct that UTC is Central Standard Time?
Central Standard Time is a time zone based on an offset of UTC. So no, it would not appear to be correct.
So the times and dates that Mr. Hemeseth testified to would be wrong?
Unless the offset was checked against the time code within the report, it would appear to be incorrect.
Mr. Castle, did you review the Dish Network DVR system?
I did.
And did you do an extraction of this electronic device?
I did.
And this is the system from the Mullis home?
It is. The satellite TV set-top box was the device I retrieved and created a disk image of to do analysis on. I extracted specifically some log files from that device to do analysis on.
Based on your extraction, could you determine what programs were watched and stored on the system?
There are 2 log files specifically that will help an analyst understand both the listings that were available to be watched on the device and also the shows or movies that were recorded and or watched by the end users.
Can you give me some examples?
Yeah, there were a number of Arnold Schwarzenegger titles that were viewed, recorded, and watched by the end users, and a number of History Channel shows to include Ancient Aliens, some presidential history documentaries, and a number of military-style historical documentaries.
Can you provide an example of some of the shows?
Counsel, would you like to narrow your question?
Yes, Your Honor. Was there evidence of Sniper Into the Kill Zone show from the Discovery Channel on the DVR system?
Objection leading.
Sustained.
Can you give an example of a Discovery Channel show that you saw on the DVR system?
Objection, relevance, and foundation.
Overruled.
I believe that there were a couple of log files extracted from the device that would represent the shows that were watched and recorded on the device. And if I could reference those log files, I would be able to better assist you in knowing all of those shows.
I would like to show the witness what has been previously marked as Exhibit 369. Can you tell me what this is?
This is a catalog.back file from the satellite set-top box, which is a file that could be used to determine what shows the user watched, recorded, or viewed on the device. It is a list of those shows and programming.
And can you go to page 15, please? And can you tell me what this is?
The daily schedule log is a log file that represents the guide. When you hit the guide button on the remote, this would show you the shows that are available to be watched or recorded on the device.
And how is it that you recognize these files?
They're documented on the Dish Network website as to gaining an understanding of what those files represent.
Is this an accurate representation of the information you extracted from the Dish DVR device?
It is.
And just for the record, to be clear, this would be a portion of the extraction you did on the DVR system?
Yes, it is very specifically 2 files contained within the hard drive of that device.
So if there is a show or something listed on the log file, what does that represent? What does that tell us?
It was a show that was available to be viewed on the device as far as programming that was available at that time. And a good way to correlate it would be to compare it to another document that would be representative of the shows available to be watched, such as a TV guide or a newspaper listing of TV shows available.
And I would like to request to admit Exhibit 369 into evidence.
Any objection?
Yes, Your Honor, I'm going to object on relevance and foundation. The witness has already testified that this is only a portion of the extraction. Additionally, this file is comprised of, I'll say, computer language instead of gobbledygook. So I don't see the relevance or how this will aid the court.
Your Honor, may I be heard?
You may.
Your Honor, the state has underlying data for this extraction. This is just a portion of the extraction is quite large, and it goes to weight and not admissibility. This will go into explaining later on the digital, correlating with the digital evidence that was presented at Mr. Mullis's criminal trial.
Do I understand correctly that this is just a listing of shows that were available through Dish to be watched? I mean, not necessarily shows that were watched, correct?
There's 2 files here, and one of them is, as you say, it's a list of files that could be watched. The first portion of this report were the shows that were actually watched or recorded by the device.
And how do I tell that by looking at this exhibit?
So at the top of the page of this particular exhibit that we have open, where it says daily log, that is the file, the shows that could be watched, like the guide part of it. The first part of this file, which was
Can you go to page 1?
the .back file, which comprises of pages 1 through the catalog.back up at the top right there that you see indicates the shows that were recorded or watched, and that comprises of pages 1 through
Your Honor, while he's looking, I'm going to add an objection on calls for speculation because I don't see anything in this that indicates when or if these were actually watched.
Well, I mean, that's my next question is the date. I don't remember that there was a specific date provided.
there's the end of the back file right there. So everything preceding that daily log file portion of this report were the shows that were watched or recorded. To correlate the date of the actual viewing of those shows, the TV guide listing for the time period of these shows in question would represent those timestamps.
Okay, well, the next problem we have is I'm looking at what is page 14 of this exhibit of the document that was uploaded, which does not appear to be the same page 14 of what I'm seeing maybe on the screen. So let's go ahead and take our morning break at this time and see if we can try to sort this out. We'll plan on coming back at about 10:25. Thank you.
Yeah, you stepped down.
I don't know if you want to just step back and let's make sure we're all looking at the same thing. On how Thank you. Please be seated. Go ahead and have a seat. All right, Mr. Castle, I just remind you that you remain under oath. And Ms. Steedson, I think we'll pick up maybe with some foundation questions with regard to Exhibit 369.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor.
All right, you may proceed when you're ready.
Mr. Castle, in pages 1 through 14 of this document, you mentioned that this is the catalog.back files. Can you, are these is it your testimony today that these are the shows that were recorded and watched on the DVR system?
Objection leading.
Overruled.
This file represents content that was viewed, recorded, or watched even in part by the end users on this device.
Are you able to determine the timing that these shows were recorded and or watched?
With this document alone, and no.
How can you determine that?
Using correlation and aligning it with the TV guide schedule at the time.
And is this something that you typically do in your line of work?
Yes, using multiple data sources to gain an understanding of context and timeframes is important to understanding the scope of the whole thing. Yes.
Mr. Castle, do you know what dates your extraction data covered?
Based on this document, it does not show the specific date range. I happen to know from the TV guide stuff what it may have covered, but this document does not show that.
When you extracted from this DVR, did you extract all the data from the DVR system?
Yes, it was a comprehensive collection of all the data represented on the hard drive, and these log files represent that.
Do you recall what date you collected this data?
Without referencing the forensic image I created of the hard drive, the forensic image of the hard drive I created, I would have a hard time recalling that.
What year would you have done this?
2022.
And so the data included on the DVR system would be from whenever the service plan would have started to when you extracted the data?
I do not know what the log file's start date is. I just know when I collected the data. I don't know when the family chose to decommission or stop using this particular set-top box.
We'll come back to this issue. Did the state do an extraction on the dished DVR system?
I don't believe so. I believe they only received what the forensic image of the hard drive contained and the data from me and reciprocal discovery.
One moment, Your Honor. Mr. Castle, during your analysis of the Dish DVR system, did you look for History Channel TV guides?
Your Honor, I'm going to object at this time under as relevance in 403 that this is a waste of time because, for example, this document from the DVR says the Andy Griffith Show. If this witness is truly going to say that he can identify which specific iteration of the Andy Griffith Show was watched or recorded or whatever show it is, that there was no reruns at any point other than what could conveniently line up with their theory of the case, this is speculative and this isn't worth the court's time in the state's opinion.
Well, counsel, did you wish to respond?
Yes, Your Honor. This is providing contextual information about what was going on in the Mullis home and also provides corroborating evidence regarding the Google searches that were presented at Mr. Mullis's trial. The state at trial presented these searches without any corroborating forensic digital evidence, and we are now able to do so, which relates to the ineffective assistance of counsel claims in this instant PCR.
I mean, as it stands, I don't have any information about the dates that would correlate to this information. So I'm having a really hard time connecting it to anything that could be considered relevant, at least without that information. So, you know, again, if there's some further foundation that you can lay to tie that in some way, you certainly may do so.
One moment, Your Honor. Your Honor, I will just move on for the moment.
Go ahead.
You can take it. Mr. Castle, based on your knowledge and experience, have you done examination in internet browser-based searches?
Yes.
What is the difference between a browser and a search engine?
A search engine is a program that is built by a content provider that will index and catalog web pages and the data contained on those web pages on the internet. A web browser is a program that is used to view the web pages on the internet specifically.
What would be an example of a search engine?
Google, Yahoo, Bing, web crawler, Excite are all web-based search engines.
What is the example of a browser?
A browser would be Google Chrome, Chromium, Mozilla Firefox, Apple's Safari, or formerly Microsoft's Internet Explorer.
Let's talk specifically about Google. If you were signed into a Google account on a certain browser, does Google track your searches?
It is an option that the user can elect for Google to maintain a comprehensive list of the searches that were conducted in that browser session, and is not necessarily device specific.
And is this typical?
It is.
Can you explain the difference between a device and an account?
A device is a physical piece of compute hardware, such as a tablet or phone or laptop. An account would be the user profile of the individual signing into that device. There can be multiple devices. There can be multiple accounts tied to devices, and synchronization options chosen therein.
What happens if a Google account is logged in on multiple devices?
There will be evidence artifacts of searches across multiple devices represented in the the data that Google catalogs. And in the subpoena reply from Google, it will reflect multiple searches conducted on those devices.
Could two people be searching on two different devices on the same Google account?
Yes,
Would this all be saved in the search history for the account?
yes.
So Google search history is not device specific?
It can be device specific, but it also can be tied to the user account tied to the device as well. So
And the objections overruled, the answer will remain in the record.
So if I understand you correctly, just because it is on a Google search history doesn't mean a certain device searched it?
I'm asking you to be a little bit more specific.
So if I had this phone signed into my Google account, and Tara's iPad was signed into my Google account, and I searched on my phone, could the search appear on Tara's iPad?
Yes, based on user synchronization options, absolutely.
Can you explain the difference between a search and web history?
A search is an end user typing a query of word or phrase into the search engine, asking for results. A web history artifact or evidence would be the visiting of a web page or the following of a link from those search results.
Did you review Mr. Hemesath's testimony regarding Todd Mullis 76 Google account?
I did.
Do you recall him saying that there was no evidence of Todd Mullis 76 Google account on Mrs. Mullis's cell phone?
I recall that.
Was that accurate?
No.
Were there indicators that Todd Mullis 76 Google account was tied to or connected to multiple devices?
Yes.
And which devices were those?
The iPad, Ms. Mullis's phone.
Did you review the Google searches obtained from Todd Mullis 76 Google account that were obtained by the state in the underlying trial?
I did.
Mr. Castle, are you aware that Todd's children took a hunter safety course?
I am.
Objection, foundation.
Overruled, the answer will remain in the record.
I would like to show the witness what has been previously marked as Exhibit 306. And just for ease of reference, this has been made into a demonstrative exhibit M that has been provided to the state. This is, sorry. Mr. Castle, what is this?
It is a media document containing information regarding hunter safety.
Did you review this over the course of your investigation into the Google searches?
It was one of the documents used as correlation to understand the searches that were conducted across multiple devices.
And are you familiar with this handbook and how it relates to the Google searches found on Todd Mullis 76 Google account?
I'm going to object that on relevance, foundation, and speculation. There's been no foundation that this document specifically was used or read by anyone or when. And where this line of questioning is going is the exact same as the DVR.
Would you like to respond, counsel?
Yes, Your Honor. This document will show that the Google searches are exactly verbatim for what this hunter safety course purports in there and with the internet searches. And trial counsel could have found this document and
should have known that Todd's children had taken the hunter safety course and would have had access to this information.
Okay, and maybe that's true, but again, as far as foundation for how this witness would know how anything about this would correlate with what he did is maybe unclear at this point. So if you'd like to lay some additional foundation, you can certainly do that.
Mr. Castle, did you review Exhibit 306?
This document.
This document, yes.
I did. During the course of the investigation into the Google searches that were conducted across multiple devices, I noted a pattern that was curious in regards to, they all seem to be related to outdoor shooting activities and firearm safety. Upon further research, I discovered that there was the pattern lined up with maybe an open book test or some type of exam as it regards to the hunter safety course.
And did you review the trial testimony of Mr. Hemasath regarding this series of searches?
There seemed to be some question as to the specificity of the searches being of a violent nature. And to gain a better understanding of the pattern there, I wanted to see what came about. It revealed itself to be a series of searches regarding firearm safety and very specifically.
I'm going to object, Your Honor. This is speculation and foundation. Once again, this witness has not established that any particular person in the Mullis family or anywhere else has actually reviewed this document, and it's speculative.
Well, I guess I'm not sure how the witness got this information or what his investigation revealed or where he got this particular guide from. The witness can continue his answer.
Your Honor, in the course of the investigation, when I noticed that the searches conducted on multiple devices, the laptop, phone, and tablet, reflected a pattern of firearm safety specifically and hunting, there was a timeline that emerged that demonstrated an evening of study in regards to firearm safety and hunter safety.
Your Honor, I would like to also note for the record that the state previously indicated that they would not be objecting to foundation or authentication or identification of this particular document.
And while that is true in our preliminary objections, the court did subsequently grant good cause to the state to be excused from the foundational requirements pre-trial. And however that may be, we don't object to the foundation in that we don't need someone to come in and authenticate this document comes from whatever magazine it's from. That doesn't mean this witness has not laid the foundation for how he is aware of this exhibit or how it pertains to this case.
May I ask the witness a few follow-up questions?
You certainly may. I think he had finished his previous answer.
Thank you, Your Honor. Is this document the official study guide for the Iowa DNR safety, hunter safety course?
Objection, foundation, leading, speculation.
Sustained.
Your Honor, I would like to enter Exhibit 306 into evidence.
Mr. Bakke?
Again, we do not object to the foundation that this is, in fact, a magazine. I would object on relevance to this case as no relevance has been laid.
And again, on the relevance point, I still don't have any information necessarily about specific timeframes. Where this came from, I agree. I'm not seeing the relevance yet. It just hasn't been demonstrated by the evidence. If you'd like to continue to lay some foundation, you certainly can. It will not be admitted at this time.
Just one moment, Your Honor. Your Honor, the court may not have reviewed this yet, and I completely understand there's a lot of documents, but there is in the record for this PCR case, in the deposition of TPEM, it does indicate that hunter safety courses were taken and completed. It includes certificates that proves that TPEM and Tristan took these courses and were certified. Additionally, this is the hunter safety course. It is not a magazine. It is this the study guide for this hunter safety course that the DNR utilizes. And TPEM's deposition has been admitted into evidence.
And I understand that, and I have reviewed that, and I am aware of that, and I don't think that that's the basis of Mr. Baki's objection. I think his point is that that information hasn't been tied to this witness. Is that fair, Mr. Baki?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
We certainly do not dispute that some hunter safety something was completed at some point, but it's the connection between the two.
Your Honor, may I be heard briefly?
Sure.
Mr. Hemstead's testimony at trial has specific searches, a series of searches that indicate this, that are related to the hunter safety course. And they have a specific date tied to them as they are from the Google subpoena. And so they have the actual date of the search. The certificates that also are in evidence that of the hunter safety course shows just a little bit later. There's also additional Google searches that correspond with the field day searches, which includes the follow-up to the online tests that TPEM was taking on the day of the Google searches. And this is provided in her testimony. But Mr. Castle had access to the Google searches. He had access to Mr. Hemstead's testimony regarding the Google searches and his own experience on using correlative data to understand the evidence and what trial counsel should have done at trial with Todd indicating that his children had taken these.
So I think Mr. Baki's point, Ms. Steenson, is essentially that all of the factual assertions that you just made in your argument just need to be asked in the form of a question to the witness so that we can get that into the record. If I'm understanding his objection correctly?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
And I would additionally note, it just was pointed out to me that this document is also copyrighted in 2022, which, if I understand correctly, is after this trial.
So are you objecting to?
It just plays into the relevance objection, Your Honor.
Well, and so maybe this document being used as a demonstrative rather than an exhibit. And I guess I'm a little bit confused about how you're intending it to be used. You referred to it both as Exhibit 306 and also demonstrative M. So we'll maybe need to clarify that at some point too, but I guess maybe you want to address that as well, Ms. Steenson. So
Just to clarify the record for the point that you had just asked, this is, the hunter safety course is what has been previously marked as Exhibit 306. The demonstrative has certain pages from the guide included with the Google searches just for ease of reference. So it is not, we're not jumping from exhibit to exhibit. So it is just for, just to make that exam hopefully a little bit more streamlined, Your Honor.
okay, I understand. Those are two different things.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. Back then to the issue maybe of some additional foundation
Yes, Your Honor.
for this exhibit. Did you wish to follow up on that?
Yes, I would, Your Honor.
Okay,
Thank you.
go ahead.
Mr. Castle, did you review Mr. Hemes's testimony regarding the Google searches on Todd Mullis 76 Google account?
Not only did I review his testimony and transcript, but I also had opportunity to review the subpoena reply from Google regarding the searches conducted across multiple devices.
Did you review, based on Mr. Hemes's testimony, the searches that were testified to on in August of 2018?
I did.
And did those searches stand out to you?
Yes. The subject matter contained within those searches was interesting and curious in the means that it was discussing firearm safety, and that some of the searches conducted also referenced the hunter safety guide, specifically the taking of an online test.
Have you personally taken a hunter safety course?
Objection, relevant.
Overruled.
In the state of Nebraska, I did complete and take the hunter safety guide, the coursework, took the test so I could become a hunter in my state. That's what gave me the understanding that some of these searches were relevant to that particular topic.
Your Honor, I'm going to lay an additional objection at this time that I'm unclear of what the scope of this expert is at this point. I believe he testified that he's a digital forensic expert, a network security consultant, and I believe he was only certified for those purposes. And now it appears that he's trying to be certified as a hunter safety expert and some sort of sociologist on what the inner workings of the Mullis family, what they're watching on TV, what they're Googling, and why. And it far exceeds the scope of this expert's background in digital forensics.
Your Honor, may I be heard for you?
You may.
Mr. Castle has demonstrated that in addition to being a digital forensic examiner with extracting data and analyzing the evidence, he also uses other evidence to examine such evidence for interpretation and investigation, and in showing how correlates and causes, how you can interpret the data. The data used at trial was solely these searches, and was very misleading without this other information surrounding these searches. And that is what Mr. Castle does as his occupation. And he is very well qualified to provide information about what these searches mean with the corroborating evidence.
And briefly. The state likewise believes this testimony is very misleading in that this digital forensic expert is attempting to connect dots far beyond the scope of the foundation that has been laid and beyond the scope of his expertise.
Certainly the court does not consider Mr. Castle to be an expert in hunter safety. Even if he was, that is not an issue that is relevant in any way to this trial. I think we are getting off track and making this issue way more complicated than it needs to be. Certainly the witness can testify about the commonly accepted practices within his area of expertise used to verify data that he extracts from devices or to interpret the data that he extracts from devices. That's where our focus needs to be, I think. And the court's not going to consider him an expert for anything beyond the areas that he is in fact an expert. So, Ms. Steenson, if you would like to ask another question, you may go ahead and do so.
Yes, Your Honor. I would like to show the witness what has been previously admitted as Exhibit 270, and I would like to show page 3. Do you see this exhibit?
It's waiting for the signal to come up on the screen. It's still not being displayed yet.
Okay.
I'm not sure. Did you switch devices or?
Erica, can you turn on the TV? It's been admitted. Well, just so we can see what the connectivity issue is potentially.
And Your Honor, we just discussed, since this is admitted, we're fine with this being to help us all see.
Okay, 270, sure.
I also have a paper copy I can just bring up to the witness if that's all right.
That's fine if you'd like, sure. I'm not sure why it's not popping up on the screen. Did you switch devices or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Castle, can you flip to page 3 of this exhibit?
Okay.
Do you see a series of searches that are dated August 7th of 2018 UTC?
At the bottom of the page, yes.
And then this continues up to searches that begin on August 9th, 2018 UTC.
Yes.
And just for the clarity of the record, do the searches go sequentially from the bottom of the page to the top of the page?
Yes.
The search dated August 9th of 2018
at 1738 UTC. Can you tell me what that search is?
What fraction of firearm incidents occur in the home?
And based on your knowledge and understanding of UTC time, what would, and your knowledge of what time would this search actually have been conducted in Iowa time?
So it's in the time denoted in UTC is in military time or a 24-hour time period. So it's not denoted in 12-hour time period. So it's 17:38:25 seconds. So if you subtract at this time, in August would have been daylight savings time, so 5-hour offset. So it would have been 12:38:25 seconds. Would have been the time UTC according to that entry in this document.
And what would that be in Iowa time?
Sorry, in 12-hour, I just gave it to you. The minus 5 hours is 12:38:25.
Thank you.
And that's UTC time code, Sam. The adjusted for 12-hour period would have been, it doesn't, sorry, 1,700 hours minus 5, 12 hours, 38 Central Standard Time, daylight savings time adjusted.
Is there a search just a few moments later?
Which one specifically are you asking for?
The one just right above.
Search for examples of elbow carry of a firearm.
And what is the next search that occurs?
The search for checking for an obstruction in your firearm.
And what time was that search done?
The 1743.
And now I believe that the exhibit is on the screen. Do these searches continue through August 9th, 2018 at 20:21:42 UTC?
They do. And as you can see from the not only just searched but visited web pages, there are references, multiple references to different states' hunter safety guides.
What indicated specifically in these searches to you that they were connected?
The time frame in which the sites were searched and the subject matter visited subsequently. So there would be a search for a topic surrounding firearms or hunter safety, and then there would be a web page visited pertaining specifically to hunter's education.
Can you look at the Google history, same page, August 9th, 2018 at 17:44:16 UTC. Can you tell me what that website that was visited is?
You said 17 what?
17:44:16 UTC.
Visited Quizlet.com, hunter safety quiz, flashcards.
And the visited site right above that, can you tell me what that is?
huntersed.com/Washington/study guide, loading and unloading steps of a firearm.
And a few searches up at 17:48:52, can you tell me what that Google history is?
I'm going to object that this exhibit speaks for itself. This was admitted, I believe, as Exhibit 105A at the underlying trial. bring the sticker on the front page. The court can certainly read every search and visited site if it so chooses. The jury would have had this to the Google searches to review for themselves. I just believe under 403, this is a waste of time in the state's opinion.
Your Honor may be heard briefly.
I'll allow the applicant to make whatever record they think is necessary. If you want to continue, Ms. Steenson, you may, so the objection is overruled.
And do these searches based on and this Google history based on your knowledge, experience, and education indicate that they're for a hunter safety course, people searching for answers to potential questions?
Objections beyond the expert's scope. The exhibit speaks for itself.
Overruled.
Yes. The searches and subsequent visits to websites would reflect, as far as pertains to digital forensics artifacts and evidence, the viewing and searching for subject matter pertaining to hunter's education and a test therein.
So just for the record, do you find this correlative nature of the searches, starting with the first search we mentioned on August 9th, 2018 at 1738 UTC, what fraction of firearm incidents occurred in the home, that it's related to the search of elbow carry of firearm?
I'm going to object leading.
Overruled.
The searches as reflected in this document show a pattern of a given subject surrounding firearm safety, then a visit to a web page very specifically having to do with hunter's education and firearm safety.
Can you look at the search dated and timestamps August 9th, 2018, 17:51:53 UTC, and can you tell me what that one says?
It was a search for actions to take if one falls into cold water.
And can you tell me what the next search history is for that search?
It very specifically reference the search of what action to take when one falls into cold water. There was a visited website directly after that search on boat education, what to do in falling into cold water treatments as a result of that search.
So your expert opinion, is it your expert opinion that the searches from August 9th, 1738, 25 UTC through August 9th, 2018, 20, 21, 49 are all searches that relate to hunter safety course?
Objection. The foundation hasn't been laid for how these all connect in relevance.
Overruled.
Chronologically, in time, they show a pattern very plainly of a search for a topic and the topic then visited of a web page that directly correlate to firearm safety, hunter's education, and survival of outdoors. The web history and searches reflect that pattern. The correlation of that data seems fairly straightforward with the evidence of these searches and web history visits.
I would like to talk about Mrs. Mullis' cell phone for a moment. Based on your review of digital forensic evidence, do you know that Mrs. Mullis created her Amy Mullis 5810 account on July 19th, 2018?
There appeared to be a new account created on Ms. Mullis's phone, as reflected by the web history, and as well as some unique dialer codes reflected in her call log.
And is it your understanding that she used this email address to solely communicate with Jerry Frazier?
Objection, foundation, irrelevance, speculation.
I would like to show the witness what has been previously admitted as exhibit, I believe 308. Let me just verify.
Did you wish to withdraw the question or respond to the objection first?
I would like to place the foundation if that's.
Okay, go ahead.
Can you pull up exhibit 308? And can you scroll to the last page? Does this exhibit show the communication between Amy Mullis and Jerry Frazier?
The document shows a number of email threads as communicated by the amylin5810@gmail.com and an email account of Jerry Frazier 70@gmail.com.
Jerry Frazier.
70@gmail.com. And again, as prosecution counsel mentioned, these items are
I
truncated.
don't believe this is responsive to a pending question.
Let's have a new question, please.
Yes, Your Honor. Based on your extraction and an analysis of Mrs. Mullis's phone and her email records, did Mrs. Mullis email anyone else using the Amy Lynn 5810 Google account?
Objection, there's not foundation laid that this is every email ever sent. This is an extraction of a device, I believe, not an extraction of the Gmail account itself, unless I misunderstood.
I guess I understood it maybe the same way. Do you want to clarify that, please, counsel?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Counsel, did you analyze Mrs. Mullis's cell phone?
I did.
Did you analyze her email address, Amy Lynn 5810 Google account?
As the artifacts or evidence was represented on her phone, yes.
Did you receive a subpoena response from the state's discovery on the underlying criminal trial of the Amy Mullis email account?
I did.
Based on your analysis of all the evidence and all the data related to the Amy Lynn 5810 Gmail account and the phone records of Amy Mullis, were you able to determine that Amy Mullis only emailed Jerry Frazier through this email address?
I'm going to object on speculation, although I understand that that's all the data he saw. I think it's too far to say that conclusively is all the data that exists.
Your Honor, may I be heard briefly?
Objections overruled. The witness can answer if he is able.
Based on my recollection, yes, this Gmail account created by Ms. Mullis on her device was the primary modes of communication between herself and the account of Jerry Frazier 70@gmail.com.
Do you recall a search regarding checking the content of text messages on the phone?
I do recall that search.
I would like to publish what has been already admitted Exhibit 270 on page 7, which is the Google searches.
You may. The witnesses just asked for some water. Maybe if someone, counsel for applicant, would like to grab that, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Page 5. So we're page 5. Are you able to see the exhibit?
I am now.
Okay, so for the record, this is Exhibit 270, page 5. Is there a search on July 21st, 2018 at 1:43:39 UTC?
Yes, I see that entry. That entry reflects a search for checking content of text messages on a phone.
And was this search conducted in UTC time?
That is what the document reflects.
And what would that be in Iowa time?
Eight. Sorry. 1:43:39 is the one you wanted, so it'd be 8. 8 a.m. I would believe.
And this would have been on July 20th, 2018 at 8:43 p.m.
Sorry. No, I believe it would be 8 a.m. If all this is in 24-hour time period stamps, then that would reflect a 1 p.m. UTC time code stamp or minus 5 hours, 8:43 a.m. time period time code stamp. If these are all reflected in 24-hour time clock designation.
So this is 1:43 a.m. UTC. So minus 6 hours would be 8:43 p.m. Is that right?
Yes, I apologize for that mistake. That would be correct.
And this would have been done on the preceding day of July 20th, 2018, instead of
Yes.
July 21st, 2018?
And to correct my mistake, the 24-hour time period designation would have been in 1,300 hours for a 1 p.m. time frame. So I apologize for that mistake. Yes, that is correct.
Was there any information in the phone records you examined that corroborated this, correlated with this search?
I'm gonna object on the foundation on that. This appears to be speculative.
I'm sorry. What appears to be speculative specifically?
I guess I'll withdraw the objection and see where it goes.
Okay. Do you remember the question, sir?
She was asking me if this search correlated with an evidence artifact on the phone records for this device as well.
And you may answer that question.
Yes, it did correlate to an interesting record on the as an entry on the phone record. Specifically, as a very short phone number that was an incoming artifact.
Just one moment, Your Honor. Mr. Counsel, did you review other Google searches connected to other Google accounts, such as Mullis RN Google account?
In my review of all this data, I had opportunity to review the subpoena returns for multiple Gmail accounts. And it was all taken into consideration in building my conclusions and understanding of these events, yes.
And were there similar searches on this Mullis RN at Gmail account to the search presented in Exhibit 270?
Yes.
I'm gonna object, that's vague and overly broad. This is 270 is 12 pages of, I don't want to characterize a number on it, but it's a lot of searches.
Can you ask a more specific question, please, counsel?
Yes. Based on the search we just mentioned about checking the content of text messages on the phone, were there similar searches on the Mullis RN Google account that you saw during your analysis and examination of the forensic digital evidence in this case?
As previously stated, there were multiple accounts tied to Ms. Mullis's phone. The Mullis RN account and the Amy Mullis 5810 account being tied to the device. There were parallel searches that were conducted with these accounts tied to the device. So yes, there was overlap of the searches as conducted on this device.
Your Honor,
Yes.
this is, as you can tell from the people sitting at this table, we're having a little bit of a technical problem pulling the exhibits that we need for this witness. And that is obviously the fault of the attorneys, but we're having a little bit of a technical problem doing that. And I don't want to waste the court's time, and I don't want to waste the witness's time. And I'm wondering if it'd be possible for us to possibly take an earlier lunch so that we can get these exhibits pulled, so that we can move through this, so that we can move expeditiously, which I think is our goal, Your Honor.
Certainly, if you think that's the best way to use our time, we can do that. It is about 11:30 now. Are you thinking you'd want to break until 1, or should we come back a little earlier?
I think one would make sense, Your Honor.
Okay, let's take our lunch break. We'll plan on resuming at 1 p.m. Thank you. Sit down, yes.
I'm trying to keep the cough drops going. I don't want to listen to anybody.
Okay, guys, don't want to scare nobody out of your seats. So they are going to go on lunch. So I'm going to go ahead and end this stream here, and we will break this up into 2 parts. But the mayor of London, Kentucky is having a press conference today at 2:00. And he's going to be addressing the lawsuits, the defamation lawsuits that have been filed against him. So we're going to stream that at 2:00. And then after that, we'll pick this back up, and we'll just fast forward through any breaks if we have to. All right, guys. So I will see you all at 2:00. Bye.